Chapter 2405. Saito was like a spider crawling on the iron net made of chains, staring at Clolu. Even though he was expressionless, Clolu felt like he was being stared at by the Grim Reaper. When a tiger loses patience with its prey, it will show its most ferocious side. Saito was just like that. I have to say, you've really surprised me. You've improved so much, and it's all thanks to a human. Everyone will be shocked if they hear about this. After all, you're the third primogenitor, but you managed to break the arm of the second primogenitor. You're not simple, Saito said slowly. His expression was cold and as steady as a rock. TSK, you put it nicely, but you're still scared, aren't you? Just like what that guy said, everyone likes to bully the weak and fear the strong. Clolu said disdainfully. He could see that Sato's face was unnatural and his lips were trembling. As Dustless said before, bullying the weak and fearing the strong was the nature of a person. However, your current appearance is also very frightening. Your arm was twisted and you don't smell blood. At this point, Clolu's tone sank. Are you a human or a ghost right now? Clolu stared at Chi-Ting without blinking. His cute cheeks were tense and wrinkled. He sincerely felt that the Chi-Ting in front of him was too terrifying. His appearance was handsome and bright, but his mind was unfathomable, like a bottomless abyss. It was impossible to see through his essence. This guy is strong, I'm not his opponent. Clolu thought to himself, his chest was panting uncomfortably. Although Clolu had the upper hand in the previous exchange, he had used all his strength. Sato's dodging was just the tip of the iceberg. Yeah. I'm embarrassed to hear you say that. Saito waved his hand like a little girl and said seriously. Do you know why we were abandoned by the ancestor? It's because I'm still a vampire. The times have changed and my identity has to change. This is how the times should be. Otherwise, I'll be eliminated. Saito pursed his lips, his mouth curved into a smile. Obviously, he admitted that he wasn't a vampire. Brother, Clolu muttered. She suddenly thought of her brother, and her beautiful eyes dimmed. Her brother had been chosen by the first primogenitor, and both of them had mysteriously disappeared. When they met again, he had actually become a ghost. Truly, the affairs of the world were unpredictable. Swish, 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 all of a sudden, a gust of chilly wind assaulted his entire body. The absent-minded Clolu immediately shuddered and cursed himself for being careless. Cut the crap, hurry up. The words that came out of his mouth came to an abrupt halt. Seeing the black shadow in front of him, Clolu's expression changed greatly and he retreated without hesitation. Too slow. Saito coldly snorted, his figure moving like a ghost as he quickly closed the distance between them. Although Clolu's strength had greatly improved, he was still a third-generation primogenitor while Saito was a second-generation primogenitor. There was a huge gap between them. Even if Dustless had trained him well, it was impossible for Clolu to become as strong as a second-generation primogenitor in just a few years. Get over here. Several iron chains shot out from Saito's back. They were like strong giant snakes that nimbly wrapped around Clolu's legs. Soon after, Saito exerted a little force, and Clolu couldn't break free from that terrifying force and instantly flew over. Bang! Caw caw caw! Saito's ferocious nature erupted as his big hand suddenly pressed down on Cruz's cheek and immediately smashed him to the ground, crushing a large area of the floor. Although it didn't harm Cruz's life, he still spat out a large mouthful of blood. Yeah. Why is it so exaggerated? I only used a little force, why do you look like you're about to be crippled? Saito asked with a mocking smile, full of disdain. I have nothing to say. Kill me if you want. Clolu's courage was commendable, and he didn't even blink. You'd rather die than tell me about Dustless. Saito's face slightly trembled, extremely surprised. He didn't expect that Clolo would be willing to risk his life to not reveal information about Dustless. Humph, don't compare me with a treacherous villain like you. You want me to betray you? Are you worthy? Are you worthy? Don't say that I don't know what kind of mysterious person Dustless is. Even if I knew, don't expect me to tell you. Compared to him, you're simply a joke. No, to put it more bluntly, you're a fart. Clolo's tone was sharp like a knife, stabbing into the weakest part of Saito's body. Obviously, she was also unafraid of death. Mocking the second ancestor was a fart, she was simply seeking death. Humph. Hearing this, although Saito didn't kill Clolo on the spot, his eyes were filled with the light of a death god. It wasn't hard to see that once he got the information he wanted, he would definitely not hesitate to destroy the flower. You don't dare. Clolo curled her lips in disdain, and her sneer became even more obvious. I thought you were a fart just now, but now you're even less than a fart. Just a name alone is enough to make you not dare to act rashly. If Dustless himself comes, won't you still kneel and beg for mercy? This is the second ancestor, Saito. If word gets out, it's too. Gotcha. Saito seemed to have had enough of Clolo's nagging. He controlled the iron chain on his right arm and shot it out. A dark light fell from the sky like a divine sword. A cold light flashed from the right side of Clolo's body. After a loud bang, Clolo's right arm disappeared. That's it. Saito, you're too useless. Clolo didn't even blink when his right arm was chopped off. Instead, he said, since you're so eager to get information about Dustless, it can only mean that you're afraid of him. Yeah. I'm impressed by your glib tongue, Clolo. Did you learn this from Dustless? Sure enough, it's true that a famous teacher produces a brilliant student. As if he had really accepted his fate, Saito retracted all the iron chains on his body and slowly approached Clolo step by step. Clolo's expression didn't change. Although her arm was chopped off, she didn't seem to feel any pain. Or rather, she was used to it. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish, Clolo. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Saito almost spat out his saliva. Can't this guy be more low-key? He had seen arrogant people before, but he had never seen someone so arrogant. It was as if he was the loser. Sir Dustless. Seeing Dustless appear, Clolo was touched. She thought that she would be abandoned. Who would have thought that Dustless would fight with Saito for her? You're too reckless to fight with me for a pawn. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? Saito asked in a puzzled manner. If he were Dustless, he would have decisively refused. Fight with you? Are you an idiot? This is just a one-sided annihilation. Dustless sneered. Idiots nowadays like to think that they're infallible. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2407. You've been modified into this. Dustless's interest was piqued. He picked up a broken part and said, forgive me for being blunt, but even if you modified yourself, it doesn't change much. You're still dead. It's just a matter of lifting my foot. No matter how sturdy the machine was, it was just a matter of lifting a foot for Dustless. Is that so? Saito, who was supposed to be dead, spoke again with a hint of pride in his voice. You want to destroy me with a single kick? You're looking down on me. With that, a large number of chains shot out from Saito's back and grabbed all the broken parts and stuffed them back into his head. In the blink of an eye, Saito was back to normal. Even his mangled face was restored to its original state. He didn't seem to have suffered any injuries at all. I can't kill you with a single kick. Dustless smiled contemptuously. He lifted his foot and stepped on Sato's head again. Then let's do it again. Bang! A brutal kick landed on the back of Sato's head. The repaired head shattered like a watermelon. Some parts even turned into powder. So strong. Clolo clicked her tongue. At this moment, the third ancestor was like a little girl who had never seen the world. She was shocked by Dustless's strength. The second ancestor, Saito, was like a pawn that couldn't even withstand a single blow. Clolo felt an indescribable sense of satisfaction when she saw him being stepped on. Seems like I've followed the right person. The corners of Clolo's mouth inadvertently revealed a trace of a charming smile. She looked at Dustless with a slightly different gaze. At this moment, Clolo was quite charming. She had lost the arrogance and nobility that belonged to a queen and had gained the cuteness and playfulness of an ordinary girl. B****, this is so frustrating. Sato's crushed head was repaired again. Although it was unscathed, Sato's face was green with anger. He was a well-known figure, the second ancestor of the vampires. He had lived for thousands of years. What had he not seen before? Saito knew that there were only a few people in the world who could be compared with him, but Dustless was the one in front of him. His head had been crushed by Dustless over and over again. Although his body could recover without limit, it was still a great humiliation for him. Have you finally realized that you're worthless? Lowering his head to look at the furious Chi-Ting, Wu Chen casually said, sometimes, it's not a good thing to be immortal. Being tortured over and over again, being hit over and over again, it's better to die early. The earlier you die, the earlier you can reincarnate. B****, don't underestimate me. Hearing this, Sato's eyelids twitched fiercely. He supported himself on all fours and raised his head forcefully. Because of anger, his eyes turned blood red. He glared at the expressionless Wu Chen, trying to push away the stinky foot on his head. Seeing this, Wu Chen's eyes flashed coldly. Who allowed you to look up at me? Lightspeed kick. His right foot stepped on Sato's head, creating a dazzling destructive light, as if it was plated with a layer of gold. Due to the high temperature, Sato's head began to melt. The top of his head was burnt to a golden color, slowly melting. A clear fist-sized hole appeared, through which Sato's head could be seen. Boom boom boom. The shining foot exploded, and the ground trembled. Sato's body was blown to smithereens, leaving nothing behind. His body parts were scattered all over the place. Bang! A pitch-black sphere fell in front of Clolo. She looked down and saw that it was an eyeball, and it was still spinning. Disgusting. Seeing this, Crew was indescribably annoyed. He decisively stepped on it, and with a bang, it shattered into powder. The technology of the 100 Knights sect can be called a black weapon. They actually transformed Saito into such a monster. No wonder he abandoned his vampire body. If he couldn't create a suitable body for Saito, he obviously wouldn't give up his original identity as a vampire. This modified body could be said to be heaven-defying. No matter what kind of damage it suffered, it could be repaired flawlessly. The vampire in the past was also powerful. Only the ghost curse weapon could kill him. Other weapons were useless. However, they were not as powerful as Sato's modified body. Does that mean this guy can't be killed? Cruella opened her mouth and asked in shock. No matter how she attacked, she couldn't kill his body. How powerful was that? Didn't that mean he was invincible? In other words, even Dustless couldn't kill him. Hee hee. You only know how powerful I am now. Sorry, it's too late. Sato's broken body reformed again. He even ignored Cruella. His eyes were locked on Dustless with murderous intent. This kid had humiliated him so much that he had to pay for it. Whoosh! Whoosh! Countless black chains once again broke out of his body. There were so many of them that the naked eye couldn't see them all. The only thing that could be seen was a dense mass. There were more than thousands of them. It was hard to imagine what kind of monster Saito had been transformed into. How could such a thin body contain so many chains? A spider. Seeing Sato's exaggerated posture, Cruella cursed and quickly hid behind Dustless's back. This was the only safe place in the world. Let's stop the fight between kids. Wu Chen was a little impatient. Several black balls suddenly appeared behind his back. They were about the size of a fist. Disappear without a trace. Dustless flicked his finger gently, and several balls shot directly at Chi-Ting like cannonballs. Using these truth-seeking balls to eliminate him was giving this kid face. Crack! Crack! The moment the sphere appeared, everything within a radius of 70 meters inexplicably collapsed, including Sato's ferocious chains. Everything disappeared without any warning. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2408. What the hell is this? This was the first time in his life that Saito screamed. His trembling voice was filled with endless fear. Witnessing such a horrifying scene, his blood began to boil uncontrollably. The moment the black sphere appeared, it was as if the world had come to an end. Everything in the world began to crumble rapidly. Not only did the chains that Saito shot out crumble, but even the grass and trees around him disappeared without a trace. Even the abandoned buildings collapsed inexplicably and turned into a pile of yellow sand in the blink of an eye. What kind of ability is this? How can a mere human have such an ability? Could this guy be the reincarnation of a god? Saito looked constipated. It was as if he had swallowed a pound of flies. It was as ugly as it could get. Bang! At the same time, Sato's body began to dismember inexplicably. Fix it! Saito roared angrily. Once again, he shot out a large number of chains from his body in an attempt to retrieve the broken pieces. Who would have thought that the chains would disappear without a trace the moment they came into contact with the broken pieces? To a certain extent, the truth-seeking jade is indeed an ability that only a god can possess. Dustless spoke frankly. He stared at Sato's half-broken body and said slowly, no matter how sturdy your body is, it will still turn into ashes in front of the truth-seeking jade. Even your soul will not be able to escape the punishment of the truth-seeking jade. I know I was wrong. Please let me go. I am willing to be your servant. Even though Saito had lived for thousands of years, he was still terrified in the face of true death. He bowed and begged Dustless for mercy. He still had a grand plan in mind. He was not willing to die like this, especially in such an inexplicable way. You want to be my slave? Wu Chen looked at Chi-Ting, who was begging for mercy. He was surprised. Yes, you heard me right. Master Dustless, I am willing to be your servant. I will follow your orders from now on. If you ask me to go east, I will go even if it means going through a mountain of swords and a sea of fire. Saito patted his chest and vowed. In his opinion, Dustless would definitely agree. He was, after all, one of the top experts in the world. He would be overjoyed to be Dustless's servant. With a second primogenitor as a subordinate, Dustless would be smiling even in his dreams. I appreciate your kindness, but I'm sorry. Dustless coldly glanced at Chi-Ting, obviously rejecting him. You're too weak. You're not qualified. After that, Dustless controlled the truth-seeking orb to move forward. Under Sato's incredulous gaze, the black orb directly hit his head. Boom boom boom. Following a violent explosion, Saito and the ground within a few hundred meters were destroyed. Affected by the shock waves of the truth-seeking orb, even the ground was scorched black. Not a single blade of grass grew, turning the area into a land of death. The dignified second primogenitor died just like that. Crew rubbed his eyes. After discovering that Saito had disappeared, he wasn't as happy as he had imagined. He just stood there in a daze. Get rid of the word dignified for me. He's just a piece of trash. Dustless said disapprovingly, you can't say that Saito has no value at all. He must know something about the Seraph of Termination. After Saito stepped down from the position of second primogenitor, he had allied himself with the 100 Knight sect. Moreover, he was the person in charge of the Seraph of Termination. He must know some secrets that no one else knew. Then why did you kill him? Isn't that like throwing a stone into the sea? There's no way for me to find out. Crew looked at Dustless in confusion. In his impression, Dustless was a meticulous person. He wouldn't be so reckless. No. This only proves that you don't understand me. Gazing at the distant horizon, Dustless's lips curled into a thought-provoking smile. Sometimes, it's not good for a secret to be exposed. If you find out the truth one day, you might be disappointed. What's so bad about being in a fog like this? Having a conspiracy is a good thing. At least I won't be bored. What a strange person, Crew shook his head. She didn't understand Dustless's thoughts and couldn't be bothered to ask. Everyone had different pursuits. Crew and Dustless saw the world differently, so their thoughts were naturally different. In a certain meeting room of the Emperor Ghost King, it was different from the previous meetings. At this moment, the floor was covered in blood. The corpses of the Emperor Ghost Kings were everywhere. Some of them had shocking military ranks, but without exception, everyone was lying in a pool of blood. Pfft. As the Marshal of the Emperor Ghost King, no one dared to challenge his dignity. He was usually high and mighty, but now, he was a miserable stray dog with a knife wound that covered his entire chest. Tai Tianli widened his eyes and stared at the figure in front of him. He clenched his fist tightly and threw a punch over. Pfft. This mysterious figure didn't show any mercy. He directly chopped off Tai Tianli's right arm with a sinister smile that was even scarier than the devil's. You brat, I really regret not killing you back then. Tai Tianli's face turned pale from the pain. He said regretfully, Dustless told me to pay attention to you, brat. I didn't expect to fall in your hands. Is that so? Then, I can only wish for you, old man. This mysterious figure said coldly. With the help of the weak filthy light, one could vaguely see this person's appearance. It was the leader of the Moon Ghost Group, Icase Honren. It's just as that guy said. The Dusk people want to kill me, and so do you. Tai Tianli closed his eyes in despair. If he had listened to Dustless, he wouldn't be in such a miserable state now. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 rating plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2409. Dustless. It's that damned guy again. Ever since that guy appeared, everything that I expected to happen has gone against my expectations. It's all because of that stinking brat. At the mention of Wu Qin, the Jinx, Icase Honglian's somewhat prideful face immediately darkened. Her face tensed up as well. She did not have a good impression of Dustless. Because of Dustless's appearance, a series of accidents had occurred. All of her plans had failed, and now, even G Twilight and his partner, G Late Night, were dead. If it was only because Twilight Walker had been killed, Icase Honren would naturally not hate Dustless. On the contrary, she would thank him. After all, although Twilight Walker had a cooperative relationship with her, his surname was still Walker. He also had the blood of the Walker family flowing through his veins. In the end, they would still be enemies in the future. Their current cooperation was only because they shared the same interests. Once the vampires were eliminated in the future, Ike's Hongren and Twilight Walker would become enemies. G Late Night was different. Although his surname was also G, he was only an adopted son. He had no G family blood, and he hated the G family as much as Ike's Hongren. It was also because G Late Night was killed by Dustless that Ike's Hongren hated him to the core. She wanted nothing more than to skin Dustless alive. After all, G Late Night was her most important ally. That's right, it's fine if you didn't mention it. Now that you mention it, I just remembered that Wu Qin has an unusual relationship with you. Tell me about his background. See Tianli, I'll let you die a quick death. Otherwise, have you tried to slowly peel off your flesh? That feeling is very enjoyable. Ike's Hongren said those words with a smile. The surviving Emperor Ghost Army felt a chill run down their spines. Even Ike's Hongren subordinates paled. Was this still the gentle Ike's Hongren from before? Now, it was as if she had been possessed by a demon. I do know a lot about him, but I advise you not to ask too much. Some things are too outrageous. You'll think that you're listening to a fairy tale. Tai Tianli panted heavily. He knew that he was on the verge of death. Ike's Red Lotus did not immediately kill him. Instead, she wanted to drain his blood and slowly torture him to death. Are you sure you want me to say it? It's best if you don't, or you'll definitely pee in your pants. That guy is more terrifying than you can imagine. Yun Tianli ridiculed. When he mentioned Dustless, a trace of awe flashed across his eyes. The way he looked at Ike's Red Lotus was like that of a clown, filled with disdain and contempt. In his opinion, a nobody like her who wanted to challenge Dustless was like an ant trying to shake the heavens. She wouldn't even know how she died. Humph, do you think I'm afraid of him? No matter what, even if I have to chase him to the ends of the earth, even if he is dead, I will find his corpse and whip it to vent my anger. Hearing those words, the expression on Ike's Red Lotus's face turned grim and she growled, "That fellow killed my most important companion. I want nothing more than to tear him to pieces. Do you think I am afraid of him? Too childish." Ike's Red Lotus was heartbroken when Tian Late Night died. She wanted revenge even in her dreams. Why would she be afraid? Hee hee. Since you want to know, I will fulfill your wish. I might as well tell you now. You will definitely regret it if you hear it. Yun Tianli smiled strangely and asked, "Do you know the leader of the vampires?" Nonsense. Ike's Red Lotus snorted coldly. Who doesn't know about this? Not just me, even the regular Emperor Ghost Army knows that the leader of the vampires is the third ancestor, Clolu. However, that guy doesn't have the pride and dignity of a vampire. The other vampire nobles like to put on airs and are arrogant. Only Clolu is different. He seems to have become Dustless's lackey. No. I don't think so. On the contrary, I think that Queen Clolu is very smart. She knows how to adapt to the times. Otherwise, she would have been destroyed long ago. The fact that she can live until now shows that she is very smart. Yun Tianli shook his head and expressed a different opinion. If Clolu went against Dustless, he would have died long ago. Finally, he reminded, also, the third ancestor, Clolutsupizi, is the leader of the vampires in Japan. I mean, he is the boss of all vampires. Do you know who he is? Of course I know. Are you trying to say, the legendary first ancestor? But what does this have to do with Dustless? Old thing, don't try to fool me. After a moment of silence, Ike's Red Lotus replied in a heavy tone. The name of the first ancestor was too important. No one had seen him before. No one knew who the first ancestor was. Many people knew that the boss of the vampires was the first ancestor. However, no one had seen him before. Not to mention the legendary first ancestor, no one had even seen the so-called second ancestor. Even the third ancestor, Clolu, was invincible. There were some things that the second ancestor did not even need to appear, let alone the first ancestor. Hee. Akatsuki Ikanes, let me tell you a piece of important news. The so-called first primogenitor was actually killed by Dustless many years ago, you self-righteous idiot. Yun Tianli laughed arrogantly at the end of his sentence. He looked at IK's Red Lotus's shocked and confused face with pride. Needless to say, the topic of conversation this time had truly frightened Haine's Korea. He had always believed in everything, but this time, it was too outrageous. His plan with Haine's Korea had been seriously derailed. The topic was clearly about Dustless's strength and origin. Why did it end up involving the first ancestor of the vampires? The most unacceptable thing was that Yun Tianli said that Dustless killed the first ancestor a few years ago. What kind of situation was this? This joke was not funny at all. Treat this old man. Don't let him die so quickly. You have to pull me out of a big hole. Otherwise, your sons and daughters will die. IK's Red Lotus ordered coldly. She had already thrown caution to the wind. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 rating plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24:10. Hearing Tai Tianli's explanation, IK's Hongren's heart palpitated with fear. At the same time, she was deeply puzzled. The secrets involved in this matter were unimaginable. How could the legendary first primogenitor be killed by Dustless? No matter how it was explained, IK's Hongren found it hard to accept. This was too absurd. It was as if a god who could move mountains and fill seas was killed by a weak human. It was too laughable. Hee. Tai Tianli laughed and looked at IK's Hongren mockingly. As Tai Tianli had revealed important information, IK's Hongren did not want him to die so quickly. At the very least, she had to extract some useful information before letting him die. Therefore, she ordered her subordinates to perform emergency treatment on Tai Tianli. Tell me everything you know about Dustless. If I'm satisfied, I can spare your life. No matter what, we're old friends. IK's Hongren suddenly said, as if she was genuinely kind. She had a complicated expression on her face. Hee. IK's Hongren, you don't have to pretend anymore. Do you think I don't know what kind of person you are? You usually like to act mysterious and play tricks on me. When have you ever told me your true feelings? Do you think I'm a child that you can fool? Tai Tianli said with disdain. Who are you? Take a piss and look at your reflection. The word treacherous is written on your face. Hearing this, IK's Hongren's expression changed. She said sternly, Tai Tianli, are you going to protect Dustless? That guy killed your son, the Twilight Man, and Zan Yi. Are you going to let him get away with it? Tell me what you know. Only then will I be able to deal with him and avenge them. Good kill. Wonderful kill. Dustless did not chop the Twilight Man into pieces. That's what I'm most dissatisfied with. Tai Tianli's incomparably valiant reply caused IK's Hongren to be dumbfounded. Is this old man's brain rusty? Fine. Tell me what's the relationship between Dustless and the first primogenitor. Seeing that Tai Tianli refused to speak, IK's Hongren could only ask about other things. Well, since you want to hear it, then I'll tell you. I guarantee that you'll regret it for the rest of your life. You'll completely understand how powerful and invincible that guy is. Tai Tianli licked his dry lips and recalled the events of a few years ago. His thoughts were lost in his memories. I remember one time when Dustless told me that he had found an interesting toy and was planning to leave for a while. I didn't stop him, but I asked him what mission he was going to carry out. At the time, he only said that he had obtained information about the first ancestor and was going to hunt him down. Yun Tianli was full of admiration. In the entire world, only Dustless dared to say that he would kill the first primogenitor. Regardless of how impressed Ran Tianli was, IK's Red Lotus jaw dropped. That's a good reason. Dustless was puzzled. He did not like the old man, but it was not necessary to kill him. There was no doubt that someone had framed him. Dustless could only think of one person who could do this, IK's Hanren. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24:11. I didn't teach that brat a lesson, but he took the initiative to frame me. He used such a despicable trick right from the start. Sure enough, that brat isn't a good person. Dustless directly ignored everyone as he muttered to himself. All this time, he didn't have a good impression of IK's Red Lotus, not even a little. She kept saying that her companions were her family, but in the end, it was the complete opposite. Her so-called family was just a pawn used by IK's Red Lotus. Take Tsukasa Jun for example. IK's Red Lotus clearly knew that his sister was used as a human experiment by the Twilight people and was subjected to all kinds of cruel torture. Yet, she chose to keep her mouth shut and hide it from Tsukasa Jun. Was this how she treated her so-called family? It was worth mentioning that IK's Red Lotus did not help Tsukasa Jun in the end. Instead, she colluded with the Twilight people and conducted the Blazing Angel experiment together. Furthermore, the experimental subject was Tsukasa Jun's sister. It was truly lamentable. Thus, Dustless had always thought that IK's Red Lotus was a treacherous person who hid a knife behind a smile. Her so-called family was just a tool used for experiments. Tsukasa Jun's sister and Hayakuya Yuichiro were examples. Attack together and destroy this bastard. He dares to ignore us. Seeing Dustless in a daze, the Ghost King's soldiers surrounding him were enraged. They pulled out their swords and slashed at him. Every one of them had a greedy look on their faces. There was nothing they could do about it. Killing Dustless and getting promoted 3 times was too tempting. Some people spent their entire lives at the bottom. Getting promoted 3 times was like a pie falling from the sky. This condition was really generous. Many people had the idea of killing Wu Qin for promotion, so much so that they even ignored his shocking strength. As the saying goes, people die for wealth and birds die for food. When the reward reached a certain level, even if they knew that there was only a dead end ahead, the people who stepped on the mine would never stop. Yasukani no Magatama. Dustless would definitely not show mercy to this group of people who were seeking death. With a flick of his finger, light bullets shot out like raindrops. Poochie! 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 The light bullets easily pierced through the bodies of several people. They specifically targeted their vitals. Their hearts, heads, charred holes appeared. One could even smell the stench of rotten flesh. Reckless fool. Dustless only snorted coldly. He didn't even look at the corpses of these people. They were courting death, so why should he show mercy? Being able to leave a complete corpse was considered a VIP treatment. I hope those 2 little girls will be fine. Dustless lowered his head and muttered to himself. The 2 little girls he was talking about were naturally Xiaoya and Sangong Sanyi. In the past, Dustless was still the only general of the King Ghost Army. Naturally, IK's Hanren was afraid of Dustless. However, things were different now. Dustless had most likely killed Tong Tianli and became the new general of the King Ghost Army. In a way, Dustless's killing of the Twilight Immortal could be said to have helped Haine's Red Lotus. If the Twilight Immortal had been in the way, he would not have been able to gain control of the King Ghost army so easily. On the ground that was full of ruins, Dustless walked forward alone. Before the destruction of the world, this place used to be a glorious metropolis, but now it's just rubble and broken tiles. All of this was thanks to Icase Honren. It was because of her that the world was destroyed. This is bad. When he came to the place where the King Ghost army was stationed, Dustless looked around. The King Ghost army, which had been in groups before, had disappeared, leaving behind a large number of vampires and King Ghost army corpses. It can be seen that there was a big battle here before. It was most likely the battle between the vampires led by Fried and Icase Honren. It is estimated that there was no winner between the two sides, and even the vampires suffered a big defeat because there were more vampires' corpses on the ground. I hope they have good fortune. Dustless muttered, and his observation hockey spread out and found that within a radius of tens of kilometers, there was no one. There were only two possibilities for Xiaoya and Sangong Sen, either they were captured by the King Ghost army or they escaped. If they were captured by the King Ghost army, they would be doomed, because Icase Honren has always been ruthless. Since she dared to kill Tong Tianli, why not kill Xiaoya? She was simply using her relationship, not to mention that Xiaoya was a member of the Tong family. It seems that I have to let that little girl unify the vampires as soon as possible, and destroy that group of humans as soon as possible. Dustless's eyes flashed coldly. He will not sympathize with humans or vampires. Whoever goes against him is an enemy, that's all. Inside the resplendent palace, Cululus sat on the throne with bright eyes. He had regained his cold and arrogant demeanor, keeping everyone at a distance. Yo yo yo. How long has it been? Queen has come out of Sato's shadow. It's not easy to come by. A sudden voice was full of ridicule. You've grown up, Clolu. Who is it? How dare you? The vampire guards around were furious. How dare you despise their queen like this? You deserve to die. Get out of here, all of you. Unexpectedly, Clolu was not angry. Instead, he said sternly, disappear from my sight in 3 seconds, or your brains will explode. Gulp. These cold-blooded words scared all the vampires out of their wits. They looked at each other and hurriedly fled in all directions. How can you treat your subordinates so cruelly? Chapter 24:12. This is the devil fruit, the elemental transformation of a Logia user. Noticing Clolu's confusion and astonishment, Dustless slowly explained, elemental transformation is a very unique ability. It allows one to be immune to most physical attacks. Immune to physical attacks. Cruella took a deep breath. Although she did not know what a devil fruit was, the ability to be immune to physical attacks was already invincible. Human. The escaping vampire guards turned around and saw Dustless. They shouted angrily, stay away from the queen if you don't want to die, or else, get out of here, you bunch of trash. The impatient Clolu angrily rebuked. This time, she seemed to be really angry. Her shout carried an invisible impact, and the group of vampires were all blasted away. A bunch of idiots. Why can't you see it? This guy dares to appear in my palace alone. His strength must be unfathomable. Why can't you see it? Cruella shook her head and sighed. Some people were cannon fodder. Not only were they weak, but they also had bad eyesight. How's the information gathering going? Dustless fiddled with Clolu's beautiful hair in boredom and said expectantly, the other ancestors of the vampires have also rushed here, right? Yes. Cruella nodded and reported truthfully, most of the noble vampires are here because Master Dustless killed the former second ancestor, Saito. Of course, they also want to capture me, the traitor queen. Cruella's voice was filled with confusion. Almost no one knew about the relationship between her and Dustless. Saito knew a little about it, but he was killed by Dustless. However, their secret was exposed in the end. That's good. It saves me a lot of trouble. Dustless stretched his body and said with an expectant smile, I heard that the other second patriarch, Old Giles, and the third patriarch, Lester Caw, are also here. The other high-grade patriarchs are also here. I can't wait to see the upcoming massacre. Compared to the interested Dustless, Clolo was much more serious. His small face was filled with caution. Lord Dustless, aren't you overestimating yourself by facing a dozen ancestral nobles at once? Crew frowned as he looked at Dustless. This was the first time he doubted Dustless' abilities. It was no wonder that Clolo lacked confidence. Facing multiple primogenitors, including the second primogenitor, Old Giles, and the third primogenitor, Lester Caw, was indeed troublesome for her. Hee. Are you scared? I have a perfect plan to ensure my survival. Dustless looked down at Clolo with a faint smile. I'll hand you over to those monsters and tell them that you're the culprit. After that, I'll suck up to them. How about that? Lord Dustless is still joking at this time. Clolo rolled his eyes. Dustless was also speechless. A large number of vampire nobles were about to arrive, and this guy still had the time to tease him. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 rating plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24:13. Time always passed by unknowingly. By the time they realized it, 3 days had already passed. Boom boom boom. On a certain morning, a loud sound suddenly came from Clolo's vampire city. Following that, the ground cracked open as if it had been hit by a meteor. A huge scorched pit dozens of meters deep appeared on the ground. Clolo, and that human called Dustless, get the hell out here. An arrogant and unbridled voice filled the decaying city, waking up Dustless and Clolo from their sleep. Asking me to get the hell out here so early in the morning. Who has such a bad temper? Dustless crawled out from his bed and lazily stretched his waist. Beside him, there was a haggard-looking girl wearing pink pajamas. This young and tender child was actually Clolo. Glancing back, Dustless saw that Clolo was also slowly opening her eyes. He couldn't help but look at her with disdain. You are still the third ancestor of the vampires. Do you have to be so afraid of death? Because Dustless had too many enemies, it caused Clolo to be filled with worry and couldn't sleep well. Hence, no matter what, he had to sleep with Dustless to feel safe. It was understandable that she would think this way. Clolo was the third ancestor, and there were still people who could kill her instantly. For example, Lord Giles, who was also the second ancestor like Saitu. She might be assassinated at any time. That's because you provoked the strongest people in the world. I don't want to die with you, Clolo said matter-of-factly. At the same time, she was very familiar with that arrogant voice. It's that guy Lester Caw. The third ancestor. Dustless understood this kid. He was a child like Clolo. Go and deal with him. I heard that the grudge between the two of you isn't small. That's what I was planning to do. A cold light flashed in Clolo's beautiful eyes. She and Lester Caw were not on good terms. The two of them had fought many times, both openly and covertly. Their grudges were not shallow. After Dustless's training, Clolo's strength had improved greatly. It was more than enough to deal with Lester Caw. Swish. 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 After putting on his clothes, Clolo galloped away and disappeared in a few seconds. It's hard to even get a good night's sleep. The flies come in waves. Dustless lay on the soft mattress and stared at the ceiling. That guy is your bait, isn't it? A barb to lure Clolo. You actually found out. After a while, a thin man walked out of the darkness. This person had sharp elf-like ears and handsome facial features. His face was always expressionless, giving people the first impression of indifference. You must be the second primogenitor, ruled Giles. Knowing that the other party was the second primogenitor, Dustless could not help but take a second look at him. Am I blind? I really don't see anything special about you. You're not even as good as that Saito. Too arrogant, full of flaws. In this short moment, a ferocious-looking vampire appeared above Dustless's head. He bared his sharp fangs and was about to bite through Dustless's head. The strongest human, your blood must be delicious. Dustless had been given many nicknames since a long time ago. The strongest human was just one of them. Ken Susanoo. A golden light flashed on the surface of Wu Chen's body. It quickly shrank and took shape. It covered his whole body and condensed into a fist. He waved his hand and punched fiercely. Bang! The vampire that wanted to ambush Dustless was instantly shattered by the punch. His body exploded, leaving not even a complete skeleton behind. He turned into a bloody mist on the ground. So strong. The second primogenitor, ruled Giles, frowned. The vampire that ambushed Dustless was an ordinary noble, but he was still a famous figure. Dustless killed a primogenitor with a wave of his hand. Wasn't he a little too strong? Sword, drink my blood. A large number of spikes protruded from Wold Giles' sword and pierced through his palm. The originally pale blade seemed to have devoured his blood and turned crimson. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. As expected of the second primogenitor, old Giles sent out a destructive sword light with each swing of his blade. Dustless didn't even look at the incoming attack. He controlled Ken Susanoo with his mind and formed a fist again. He punched the incoming beam of sword light. Old Giles snorted and said somewhat angrily, "How can my attack be compared to that trash? It's not something you can." Bang! Before old Giles could finish his words, his attack was shattered by Ken Susanoo's punch. The beam of sword light raged and turned into small fragments that spread wildly. Countless holes were created in the walls of the palace. There's no reason for the gap to be so big. There must be something wrong. Old Giles was shocked. His cheeks were twitching, and his mouth was so wide open that a fist could fit in it. You used this move to defeat him. Old Giles had an ugly expression on his face. He finally understood why Saito had lost. Saito's strength was completely overwhelming. It's a little more complicated to deal with him. It's easier to deal with you, Dustless said honestly. His words angered old Giles. Wasn't Dustless mocking him for being inferior to Saito? Open your eyes wide and watch. Old Giles seemed to be truly enraged. He raised his saber again and slashed down with a slash that was even more ferocious than the previous one. That's the only move I've come up with. How boring. Dustless was dispirited when he saw this. He blinked his Sharingan again and Ken Susanoo's form changed again. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24:15. When did you appear? I didn't even realize it. Have I become so slow? Bored Giles clenched his fists, his face turning pale. He knew that he was now a complete stranger. Answer me a few questions before you die. Dustless didn't care if Bored Giles agreed or not. He asked directly, Freed told you about my secret contact with Kruru, didn't he? Humph, that bastard. It would have been better if Freed had not been mentioned. However, the moment Freed was mentioned, Bold Giles flew into a rage. That bastard dared to scheme against me. He sent someone to inform me that your strength is on par with mine. That's because you're too naive. How could you believe the words of a fox like him? Dustless shook his head. You must think that Fried wouldn't dare to lie to you because you're the second primogenitor. Am I right? Lord Giles didn't say a word. He did think so back then, but he ended up suffering a great loss. Do it. Lord Giles didn't want to waste his breath. He had nothing to say now. He had lost, and he had lost everything. Do you have any last words? Dustless showed a rare kindness to Lord Giles when he saw the desolate look on Lord Giles' face. He could understand the feeling of being deceived by a nobody. Lord Giles probably wanted nothing more than to tear Fried into pieces. Last words. Lord Giles opened his eyes abruptly, shooting out a cold glint. You want me to let you go? Impossible. You must die, Dustless said bluntly. Come to think of it, I've lived for thousands of years. What haven't I seen? To be honest, sometimes I feel like I'm tired of living. Lord Giles' voice was hoarse and weathered. The light in his eyes became empty. He suddenly felt like he had seen through the world of mortals. I only have one wish. I can't stand being deceived by a piece of trash. If you can, I hope you can torture Fried. That damned bastard. Lord Giles roared with hatred. The second primogenitor was tricked to death by the seventh primogenitor. It was a great humiliation to him. He would be laughed at even if he died. As you wish. Dustless nodded in agreement. Shortly after, a light flashed in his hand as he used the Ajuro pill to crush old Kyles. He left this world with no regrets. You want me to torture that brat? Actually, even if you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have let that kid off so easily. However, I don't seem to be very good at torturing people. Other than Tsukumi, there doesn't seem to be anything else. It's better to leave it to someone else. Dustless's lips curled into a faint smile. Abuse? It just so happened that there was a master in this field who could be of service. On the other side, Klolov and the third ancestor, Rester Ka, were engaged in a fierce battle. Because Dustless had trained him, Klolov's strength surpassed Rester Ka's, but it was still difficult for him to kill him. After all, Lester Ka was the third primogenitor, and his strength wasn't bad. Modif *Ker, what the hell? Chapter 24:16. However, the guy Dustless still knows my hobby, which means that the kid still remembers me. The beautiful woman licked her lips, showing a horrible bloodthirsty smile, which instantly made her lose her beauty, as if she was incarnated into a female Shura who had killed countless people, which made people unable to help but feel creepy. It was worth mentioning that this coquettish woman with long blue hair had killed countless people. She was the sadist general who had a hobby of torturing others, is death. Dustless wanted to torture Fried, not only for old Giles, but also for himself, but his ability to torture people was so he thought of Isdeath. In the past, Isdeath had been staying in the system space and was quite bored. This time she was released by Dustless. She calmly looked at the world that she had never seen before, and her beautiful big eyes were full of curiosity. Forget it, let's finish the task given by Dustless first, and then go on a date with him. It's better to have some beautiful things happen in the middle, such as giving birth to children and so on. Istetha's eyes were restored to coldness, looking at the villa in the distance, and suddenly snapped her fingers. Dare to provoke my man, you have a lot of courage. Snap! With a snap of his fingers, a terrifying ice ball suddenly condensed in the void and smashed down like a meteorite. Even the sky was covered by it. The surrounding vampires who saw it fled in panic. Because of the teaching of Dustless, Istetha's strength became extremely powerful, and she also ate the ice-cold fruit that belonged to Akiji in one piece. In addition, she was a fighting genius, so it was conceivable how strong she was. Who did this? The scene suddenly became chaotic, and Fried naturally noticed it. He hurriedly ran out of the villa, looking up at the huge ice ball that slowly fell from the sky, and his heart was full of despair. Gulp! Without exception, Crowley was also amazed. The huge meteorite ice was like the punishment of God, and its huge volume covered a radius of hundreds of meters. "What are you doing? What are you looking at? Run for your life." Realizing that Corey was staring at him in a daze, Freed kicked him in annoyance. Soon after, the two of them hurriedly fled for their lives, their speed as fast as lightning. At the same time, Esteth, who was watching silently, also found Crowley and Freed. The speed of their escape was much faster than that of other vampires, which also indirectly showed that the strength of these two was better. They were probably the leaders of this group of vampires. "Still want to run?" Esteth smiled and chased after him like a gust of wind. Huff huff huff. After running for several kilometers, Freed and Crowley lay on the ground, gasping for air. The two of them were so tired that their backs were drenched in sweat and their legs were sore from running. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24:17. God is really unfair, all the benefits belong to that guy. Freed also nodded and couldn't help but look at Esteth. This mysterious woman was as beautiful as a goddess, exuding a noble temperament, and there was an indescribable sense of inferiority in front of her. Yeah, and this woman has a close relationship with Dushless, and her strength is unreliable. Fried Kuhn, maybe this is the end for us. Crowley said in a heavy tone, and he was shocked by Esteth's overwhelming strength. "Don't worry, I won't kill you." Esteth smiled charmingly, like a spring breeze, making people feel comfortable. At this moment, she was very amiable. However, the following words caused Freed and Crowley's faces to darken. "I like all kinds of torture. It's not easy to be released by that guy. Immortal bodies like you vampires must be the most suitable material." Esteth smiled again, without the previous gentleness, this time it was the sneer of the Grim Reaper. "Your Excellency, we don't have any grudges, why do we have to fight to the end? It's not good for anyone." Freed was indeed an old fox with an off-the-charts IQ. He knew that the chances of him and Crowley winning were slim, so he immediately changed his method. His tone was filled with bewitchment as he advised in a low voice, "Dustless is a vicious and merciless person. Why don't we join hands to destroy him and divide the world?" However, Esteth didn't speak, just looked at the two with a blank expression. "Is it not enough?" Crowley's eyebrows flashed, and he added, "How about this, after we join forces to destroy Dustless, the world will be divided 70-30. You two idiots." Esteth, who couldn't listen to it, opened her thin lips slightly and exhaled, "Compared with Dustless, even if you give the world to me, it's still worthless, and you don't seem to understand the relationship between me and Dustless. That guy is my man, do you understand?" Esteth's words made Freed and Crowley's mood fall to the bottom. Before, they even thought of joining forces with Esteth to kill Dustless, but now it was ridiculous to think about it. "It's time to teach you guys a lesson." Esteth's eyes turned cold. With a wave of her slender hand, a large number of ice thorns appeared out of thin air and shot at Freed and Crowley, who were in a daze. "Idiot, why are you still in a daze at this time? Hurry up and dodge." As if he sensed death, Freed shuddered and reminded Crowley beside him. Swish! Swish! The two of them hurriedly retreated, dodging the icicle's attacks. Although they managed to react in time, there were simply too many icicles. Unavoidably, Freed and Crowley were hit by the icicles, their bodies riddled with holes. "How are you, Crowley?" Freed asked in a low voice. Just now, Crowley's reaction had been too slow, resulting in his body being struck. A large number of ice spikes had pierced into his body, resulting in hundreds of wounds. "Don't worry, Dustless told me that the only way to kill a vampire is to use the ghost curse equipment. Unfortunately, I don't have it, so I'm destined not to be able to kill you too. Istetha's pretty face was calm, and finally she suddenly laughed again. However, that guy also said that it would be more interesting to take away your vampire's heart and let you lose too much blood. Gulp. Hearing Istetha's words, both Freed and Crowley felt a chill down their spines. This woman was simply a pervert. Vampires would mutate if they lost too much blood. It was better to kill them directly than to degenerate into ghosts. Let the show begin. Istetha didn't care what the two of them thought. Now she just wanted to enjoy herself. The enemy's howling was the most beautiful music for her. In Osaka City, the rest of the Emperor Ghost Army gathered here. The current marshal of the Emperor Ghost Army was Ikane Sakemi. This kid's promotion speed was definitely the fastest. Previously, he was still a lieutenant colonel. Now, he had become a marshal. How many levels did he jump at once? Akemi, hurry up and fight with Dustless, that bastard. In the war conference room, Haikuya Yuichiro couldn't wait to say, that guy killed Michael, I will make him regret living in this world. You idiot. Unexpectedly, Ikane Sakemi just scolded and sprayed her saliva on Haikuya Yuichiro's face. Who is Dustless? The strongest man in the world, Woo-ee. How can we fight with him? Unless that kid comes to us personally, I will never take the initiative to attack. Ikane Sakemi stubbornly said. Hearing that Dustless killed the first ancestor, her fear of Dustless became deeper and deeper. So as long as he didn't come to them, Ikane Sakemi decided to continue to be a coward. After all, even the blazing angel of termination was no match for Dustless in the end and was crushed. Truth be told, even in Ikase Honrin's dreams, she wanted to kill Dustless. However, that was just a dream. In reality, she could only obediently become a stray dog. Don't tell me I don't want to avenge Michael. Haikuya Yuichiro looked resentful. His right hand held the ghost curse tachi tightly, and his body was erupting uncontrollably. There will be opportunities. I'm sorry, but not now. We need to accumulate strength. When we have enough strength in the future, we will destroy the great demon king. Ikane Sakemi patted Haikuya Yuichiro's shoulder, a sincere look of consolation on her face. However, in her heart, she disagreed. Brat, if it weren't for the fact that you are valuable to me as an important experimental subject, I wouldn't have taken special care of you. If you want to die, you should die early. If you die, you idiot, just treat it as purifying the air. Ikane Sakemi had a sincere smile on her face. Her heart was calculating. Haikuya Yuichiro was an important experimental subject that must not be lost. In the future, when she mass-produced the Seraph of Termination, there would be no need to worry about not being able to destroy Dustless. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 rating plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24:18. Boom boom boom. A sudden explosion shook the heavens and the earth. Where the Emperor Ghost Army was stationed, a crimson ball of fire burned without restraint. Smoke that was dozens of meters high covered the sky, turning the blue sky black. The surrounding Emperor Ghost Army was burned to ashes. Those who didn't know would think that the end of the world had come. What's the situation? Did someone launch a sneak attack? Akira Haines, who was in the middle of brainwashing Yuichiro, was also shocked. Her heart sank. Such a violent explosion might even flatten the city walls that were used to fend off the vampires. Buzz buzz buzz. At the same time, the rumbling sound of machines came from the void, as if demons had descended. It lingered in the air for a long time, and as time passed, the sound became louder and more frequent. This is bad. The faces of the King Ghost Army, who had been fighting vampires all year round, changed. They hurriedly dropped what they were doing and gathered their ghost curse weapons. The veterans all knew that the vampires had launched a large-scale attack. The buzzing sound came from the helicopter propellers. Damn it, who could be so generous? Ike Honglian leaned against the window and stared at the densely packed number of helicopters in the distance. Her heart was at its limit. She was 100% certain that this was the final battle between the vampires and the vampires. There were at least several hundred helicopters gathered here. Ever since Dustless had destroyed most of the primogenitors, all the resources had fallen into Kalula's hands. She was able to mobilize more troops and resources. After all, she was the only primogenitor left. You don't regret it? In one of the most luxurious helicopters, Dustless stood in front of the window, looking down at the Emperor Ghost army that had been attacked by the flames of war on the ground. His eyes were cold. Krolu stood beside him. She was the one who asked the question. Regret? Dustless murmured thoughtfully. Then, he asked slowly, you think that since I'm also a human, if I kill all the Emperor Ghost army, the human race will also perish? Not bad. Krolu nodded. At that time, you might become the last human in this world. Wouldn't that be very lonely? So what? Dustless's reply was quick and decisive. His eyes were glittering, as if he did not want to die. His tone suddenly became weathered. What does the life and death of the people have to do with me? All I did was destroy the Supreme Ghost Army. If the human race perishes, I won't meddle in other people's business. I'm not a racist. Of course I know you're not a racist. Otherwise, we vampires would have been done for. Crew had no doubts about Dustless's strength. He alone was enough to destroy all the vampires. Let's go down and take a look. Dustless directly smashed the glass with his fist and jumped down from a height of over 100 meters, followed by Krolu. Kill all humans. Destroy the vampires. The two completely different races were at each other's throats. Neither side would let the other go. No matter which side lost, the final outcome would be a massacre. Poochie. 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 As time passed, more and more vampires were turned into ashes. The winning side gradually became clear. The scales of victory were tilted toward the humans. Most of the humans were encouraged and focused on the battle, hoping to lead to the day of light as soon as possible. Of course, there were some people who saw something unusual. How strange. Why did the vampire nobles all disappear? Jun Yuefang and Zhao Yinu frowned. They had been lucky enough to fight against the nobles. They knew very well that the vampires' top forces had not appeared. So far, the ones that appeared were just small fries. The reason is simple. It's because the nobles are all dead. Behind the two's backs, there was a movement without any warning. Moon Jun Shifang and Zhao Yinu were both greatly shocked. Their current strength could be considered to have made some small achievements. Just who was it that could appear so silently? So it's you. Turning their heads, the two immediately saw Dustless and Crew. Yo, the two of you, how have you been? Dustless smiled and raised his hand to greet them. Those who did not know might really think that they were friends meeting. I can't wait to eat your flesh and drink your blood. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. Jun Yuefang gritted his teeth and stared at Dustless. His hands that were holding onto his blade were trembling. Kid, you still haven't realized. Dustless sighed and said with pity, the one who used you as Isis Korim. Your sister is still being locked up by him for all kinds of crazy human experiments. Don't try to drive a wedge between us. Do you think I'm an idiot? No, let's go together and destroy this guy. Jun Yuefang obviously did not want to listen to Dustless's nonsense. He held onto his blade and rushed forward. Swish swish swish. Zhao knew and knew also pulled their bowstrings. A few powerful arrows pierced through the void and headed straight for Dustless's head. Playing with fire will get you burned. Dustless withdrew the pity on his face. Since they wanted to die, he would fulfill their wish. He immediately formed a hand seal. Fire release, grand fire annihilation. Boom boom boom. A vast sea of fire was blown out from Wu Chen's mouth. The surrounding temperature instantly increased by dozens of times. A large area of crimson flames crushed towards Jun Yuesher's side. The diameter of the flames was at least 20 to 30 meters. Everything was burned into ashes and scattered ashes. All of this happened too suddenly. By the time he realized that something was wrong, it was already too late. Jun Yuefang's entire body was engulfed by the flames. His entire body was set on fire. His entire body was charred black. The smell of charred corpse was nauseating. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 rating plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Chapter 24:19. Jun Yu. Witnessing Moon Lord Jun being burned alive into a dried corpse, Zhao Nu and Yi Yi's faces were covered in tears. Their eyes stared blankly at the charred corpse that was burnt beyond recognition. Their eyes were dull, as if their souls had been taken away. Don't be so sad. You can go accompany him soon. Dustless brushed past Zhao Nu. This kid had already lost his will to fight. Killing him would be boring. Kalulu, I'll leave this kid to you. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, Kalulu rushed out at full speed and disappeared in an instant. Caw caw caw. His slender white hand wrapped around Zhao Nuyi's neck and suddenly twisted in the opposite direction. With a caw sound, he easily broke Zhao Nuyi's neck and silently ended his life. Seriously, this group of minions also came out to play dumb. Dustless couldn't help but sigh as he lowered his head and stared at Zhao Nuyi's corpse. Play dumb. Hearing this, Kalulu's face was conflicted and he was speechless. So in Dustless's eyes, other people's battles were purely playing dumb. This was too much of a blow to him. What do we do next? Kalulu asked respectfully. In his heart, he had already treated Dustless as a boss and listened to his every word. What do we do? It's very simple. Just kill them all. Dustless answered casually. This simple sentence determined the fate of all the Emperor Ghost Army. Only death awaited them. I understand. Kalulu didn't ask any more questions. When he saw that there were more Emperor Ghost Army, he decisively pounced over. Ah! Aren't you afraid that your bodyguards are gone? We brought our trump card here. You alone might die without a burial ground. This sudden voice was extremely cold and his tone was as cold as ice. At the same time, when he mentioned Dustless, it was filled with deep hatred. Do I still need bodyguards? What a joke. You yourself said that you might kill me. Actually, you don't have the confidence either. Dustless shifted his gaze and observed the figures from the corner of his eyes. He said indifferently, the actors are all here. That's right, we're all here. The show is about to begin. Ines Honglian pulled out the ghost curse equipment in her hand. Beside her was Yuichiro Haikuya and the other containers controlled by the Royal Ghost Army. What a mistake it was to kill Ji Mu. Did you inherit his entire inheritance? Dustless's eyes flashed with a strange light. He couldn't help but take a few more glances at the rotten container. His eyes didn't move, as if there was some kind of treasure inside. His face flashed with a bright light, and then he said, inside that, is the thing with Yuichiro, right? She was Jun Yushifang's younger sister, Jun Yu Wei Lai. Hearing this, Ike's Kuriko's pupils shrank and she said in a gloomy voice, You know more than I expected. You even know about this. You just found out. You were too naive in the past. You thought that you could hide anything from me. Naive. Dustless's gaze swept past the container and Yuichiro Hayakuya. He then looked at Ike's Kuriko and said, There are two seraphs of the end. Krolu will only be cannon fodder if he stays here. Kill you. Kill you. Kill you. Yuichiro Hayakuya's eyes were scarlet red. His entire body emitted an astonishing amount of killing intent. A bloody mist appeared behind him. He locked his gaze on Dustless, and the killing intent he emitted grew stronger. Is it because of Michael Hayakuya? Dustless looked at Yuichiro Hayakuya indifferently. That's right. I did kill that kid. His corpse was not even left. He was cut into pieces. Bastard, go to hell. Yuichiro Hayakuya rushed over. Even Ike's Kuriko couldn't see his figure clearly. It was obvious that this kid had improved a lot. Of course, it could also be that after seeing Dustless, the strongest enemy in his life, Yuichiro Hayakuya's potential erupted. Bastard, you are too impulsive. Seeing this, Ike's Kuriko cursed. She had told Yuichiro Hayakuya to follow the plan. Who would have thought that Dustless would go berserk? Go! Release the Seraph of the End. Helpless, Ike's Kuriko could only give up on the plan and charge at Dustless with her katana. Creak! The container, which was covered with all sorts of talismans, was opened. An ominous aura immediately spread out. The King Ghost Army could not help but tremble. Yuichiro, let's delay Dustless for a while. The Seraph still needs time to prepare. In order to fully awaken the Seraph of the End, there were still some prerequisites to be made. Unfortunately, Yuichiro Hayakuya's mind was consumed by hatred. He did not hear Ike's Kuriko's words clearly. Die! A sharp and dangerous cold light came at him. Dustless's head was about to be separated from his body. Even without Aijiramu, Yuichiro Hayakuya had found a weapon that suited him. Aya. So scary. Seeing this, Dustless's calm face slightly loosened. It was as if he was really afraid and shocked. Only those who truly understood him knew that it was disdain. To deal with you, one hand is enough. Dustless did not waste any time and directly grabbed with his right hand. Pop! The dangerous and fatal katana slashed at Dustless's palm. The sharp blade that could cut through steel was useless. Dustless's palm did not bleed at all. Instead, he clenched his hand into a fist and suddenly grabbed the katana tightly. Let go of me! Yuichiro Hayakuya shouted angrily. He clenched his left hand into a fist and punched Dustless's cheek. Kid, don't get carried away. Dustless's eyes turned cold. He snorted and increased his strength slightly. The weapon in his hand exploded with a bang. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 rating plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24-20. Gulp. Witnessing Dustless's brutality, Hayakuya Yuichiro woke up from his rage. His eyes widened as he stared at the broken blade in disbelief. He was in a terrible state. Yuichiro, why are you still in a daze? Hurry up and back off. Haine Sakura hurriedly reminded him. Hayakuya Yuichiro was her most important trump card. She could not afford to lose him. However, the kid remained unmoved. His ears seemed to be stuffed with donkey hair. He did not hear a thing and continued to stare blankly. Buzz buzz buzz, Dustless's right leg was engulfed by a large amount of golden light. The blinding light made it impossible to open one's eyes. If one looked at it for a second longer, one would be blinded. Lightspeed kick. This time, Wuchen didn't show any mercy. That dazzling light beam shot towards Yuichiro's body. Immediately, a destructive energy fluctuation exploded. Yuichiro's body trembled. Yuichiro's body trembled. Boom boom boom. The destructive shock wave was repelled. Haikuya Yuichiro's body exploded. The blazing flames quickly evaporated the moisture in the air. The air suddenly became abnormally dry. Haikuya Yuichiro was tormented by the flames. He howled in pain. His body was burned to pieces. Some of his organs had melted and evaporated. His hoarse scream conveyed a message. He regretted challenging Dustless. He regretted living in this world. There was no harm in trying to imagine a person being burned alive to the point that their body peeled off and their skin melted. What kind of painful experience was that? Gulp. Not to mention others, even Haine Sakura, who had seen many things and had a will of steel, felt her legs go soft when she saw such cruel torture. She could not help but take a step back. Haine Sakura's impression of Dustless changed. He was not a human. He was not a vampire. He was an evil pervert. Why are you distancing yourself from me? Dustless did not look at Haikuya Yuichiro. In the end, he was just a chess piece. No matter how strong he was just a chess piece. And chess pieces were destined to be abandoned. Hearing those words, Akane Sakura did not say anything. She could not stop herself from backing away. Every time Dustless took a step forward, she would have to take 5 to 6 steps back before she could feel safe. Looks like he's scared. Dustless smiled and said proudly, "Should I celebrate if I can scare someone like you?" After saying that, Dustless continued to leisurely approach Haine Sakatsuki. Unlike the nervous and frightened Haine Sakatsuki, Dustless appeared to be taking a leisurely stroll. "Don't come any closer." This was the first time in her life that she felt fear towards an enemy. "Honglian, don't be afraid. Leave it to me." Suddenly, an inexplicable voice rang out within her mind. The pleasant tone of the voice was soothing to the ears. It was like a miraculous elixir, brushing away the fear within her heart. "Leave it to me." The mysterious voice spoke up once more and Ike's Honglian's eyes became incomparably vacant. She nodded her head gently like a zombie and her consciousness fell into the bottomless abyss to be replaced by a brand new consciousness. I'm finally out for some fresh air. Akane Sakatsuki, who was backing away, suddenly stopped. She rested her tachi on her shoulder and took a deep breath of air. Although this rotten air is nauseating, it sure is refreshing. Is there a switch? Dustless stopped as well. He noticed that Akane Sakatsuki's eyes had changed. Previously, they were pure black. Now, they were scarlet like a vampire's eyes. They were filled with all sorts of calamitous omens. "Aren't you going to introduce yourself?" "I am Miya-Masato." Dustless's soft words caused Akane Sakatsuki to frown. No, to be more precise, Miya-Masato, who was controlling Akane Sakatsuki's body, felt his heartstrings twitch. "Let's make a deal." Akane Sakatsuki, who was controlled by Miya-Masato, spoke up. "Let me go, and this world, you are not qualified to make a deal with me." Without giving Miya-Masato a chance to talk nonsense, Dustless said bluntly. "There are only 2 ways to deal with my enemies. Either they are chopped into pieces or they disappear without a trace. Little girl, seeing your sincerity, I will be merciful this time and choose a way for Akane Sakatsuki to die. It's rare to see someone as arrogant as you." Miya-Masato was not as angry as he imagined. Instead, he said in a light tone. "You have taken care of my sister for so long. I should at least say thank you before the battle." You're welcome. It's just a spur-of-the-moment thing. Maybe this is fate. Dustless said. In the end, he shook his head and sighed. However, I still lost her in the end. I hope his death can find her. Then I won't be polite. The moment his voice fell, Ikane Sakatsuki, who was controlled by Miyamasato, suddenly attacked. Her speed was not ordinary. A cold wind blew quietly, but Miyamasato arrived beside Dustless. His body seemed to be attached to the cold wind. He raised his hand and slashed. Bang! This slash, before it could get close to Dustless, was blocked by a special energy barrier. Miyamasato squinted his beautiful eyes. He saw a substantial force shrouding Dustless, and his whole body was tightly defended. It was like drilling into an iron bucket with no blind spots. There were no loopholes in his body. With your strength, it's impossible to break Kensusunu. You have to be 100 times stronger than you are now to break its invincible defense. Dustless kindly reminded Miyamasato of the strength needed to break Kensusunu, but it sounded more like a blow to others. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24-21. You're right. I don't have the ability to deal with you, but... Lin Jinzhou paused, and a confident smile appeared in his voice. You seem to have forgotten that the main force against you has never been me. Boom! The container prepared by the Emperor Ghost Army suddenly burst open, and a large number of chains came out of it. The front end was connected to a sharp dagger. These chains trembled unconsciously as if they were alive, which was extremely strange. Phew! The rotten chains shook unconsciously, and it didn't take long for them to show their ferocious nature, locking the surrounding lifeforms and stabbing them with great hunger. Poochie! 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 Whether it was the Emperor Ghost Army or the vampires, they were all the prey of these chains. They were pierced by the dense chains and devoured their blood. Playing this trick again. Dustless stared at the dilapidated container and sniffed twice, frowning, such a disgusting smell. The last time Yuichiro Hayakuya went berserk, this smell was also the same. Are all angels so disgusting? Have you not bathed for many years? Hearing this, Jin Jinzhou's mouth twitched a few times, showing a rare speechless expression. Your Excellency's thinking is really difficult for ordinary people to guess. Of course, after all, our realms are different, and our worldviews are too different. Dustless nodded. What the hell is this? The vampires and the Emperor Ghost Army stopped fighting. At this moment, they were chased by those chains, their bodies were pierced by sharp daggers, the blood in their internal organs was hollowed out, and they became horrifying skin and bones. Humans. In the void, there was a faint voice. Although it was very subtle, it really existed. Everyone heard it, and everyone looked around, looking for the source of the sound. However, this sound seemed to come from another space, and no one could find it, including Krollo, who was also at a loss. Pretending to be mysterious. Only Dustless looked at the container thoughtfully. Through the perception of observation hockey, he was clearly aware that some powerful creature in the container was waking up. Boom boom boom. A moment later, the container suddenly exploded into pieces. Then, a sacred light overflowed and spread to every corner of the world. Heavens, angel! Such a huge change attracted the attention of many people. Both the vampires and the Emperor Ghost Army noticed the mysterious girl standing in the void. She had a pair of sacred wings on her back, and strange purple patterns on both sides of her cheeks. Her eyes were emotionless, as if she was a god looking down on ants. There was only contempt in her eyes. This angel's appearance was that of Jun Yuamei's younger sister, Jun Yuamei. If that brat were to see his younger sister become a test subject, he would probably crawl out of his coffin and tear Ice Korea apart. Humans who have violated the taboo should be destroyed. The angel incarnation of Jun Yueme gloomily said. A golden horn suddenly appeared at her mouth. Without hesitation, she blew the music of destruction. Woo woo woo, the sound of the horn echoed throughout the world, and the earth shook with a caw-caw-caw sound. The surface of the earth quickly collapsed, and dense cracks gradually appeared. In the blink of an eye, the earth within a radius of a few kilometers was swallowed up. It was as if the end of the world had come. Poochie! 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 A large number of small mountains sprang out from the depths of the ground. Many vampires and the Emperor Ghost Army were pierced by this thing. Their bodies were chewed up and they died without a complete corpse. You're caught in a trap of your own making. Seeing this scene, Dustless didn't have the slightest pity. This thing was originally created by the Emperor Ghost Army. Now it's not wrong to suffer the wrath of an angel. And you too. His eyes moved and fell on Lin Jinzhou, who controlled Ice Korea's consciousness. The Emperor Ghost Army is all dead. You can't control the angel. At that time, you will also be the target of this thing. So what? Lin Jinzhou said indifferently, as long as Korea can survive, it doesn't matter even if the world experiences another destruction. The life and death of the people have nothing to do with me. Bang! At this moment, Jun Yue's body changed again. Her back suddenly exploded. Without warning, a blood-red unknown creature sprang out. Its entire body was stained with blood. Awoo! The hoarse cry of a beast resounded. Looking up, the thing that escaped from Jun Yue's body revealed its true appearance. It had turned into an ugly giant bug. Its hoarse roar was earth-shattering. A large number of mysterious spheres fell from this monster. The moment they fell to the ground, they all shattered with a cracked sound. A dense swarm of bugs occupied the ground. Whether it was the Emperor Ghost Army or the vampires, they were all slaughtered. This is an angel. It's obviously a bug. Looking up at the void, Dustless discovered that this huge bug was several meters tall. Its mouth was full of fangs and its appearance was also extremely ugly. It was the type that one would never forget for the rest of their life. Hee hee, have fun with it. I'll take my leave first. Forgive me for not accompanying you. Lin Jinzhou said and turned to leave. In just a few seconds, his figure had already faded. Did you turn a deaf ear to what I said before? Ice Korea must die, including this so-called angel. No, it would be more appropriate to call it a bug. All of you will die. In front of me, there is no exception. Dustless said coldly. He looked up at the sky and smiled eerily at the so-called angel. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24-22. Get the hell down here. Dustless's eyes were deathly still. His large hands suddenly grabbed at the air, causing the horizon to tremble. 10,000 mammoth heavenly attraction. Boom boom boom. A boundless gravitational force erupted. Dustless's small hands were like the hands of God. No one could escape his judgment. Even the horizon was distorted, and the wind and clouds that gently swept past were pulled over. Under the dumbfounded gazes of countless people, the huge body of the huge bug that stood in the air began to tremble slowly. It even let out a series of bestial cries. Clearly, it could not escape the binding of the gravitational force. Monster, monster. That huge bug is so powerful. That Dustless can actually forcefully pull it over. Those who knew Dustless were shocked. This scene was too shocking. That bug was unable to escape Dustless's judgment even though it was dozens of meters away. That loud bestial cry sounded more like fear in everyone's eyes. It turned out that the so-called angels also had things that they were afraid of. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The ugly bug could not withstand the gravitational force of the 10,000 mammoth heavenly attraction. Finally, its huge body began to fall, rapidly falling towards Dustless's location. Good timing. Seeing this, Dustless grinned. His feet were firmly planted on the ground, and his legs were slightly bent, as if he was preparing to accumulate power. Bang! Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Following the sound of a red lotus, Dustless suddenly disappeared. His body shot straight into the sky like a rocket. The ground where he was previously standing had been completely destroyed, and a deep pit was formed. Lightspeed kick. Just as he was about to come into contact with the huge bug, Dustless raised his large foot and viciously kicked out. His destructive vision pounced on that ugly head. Boom boom boom. The instant the lightspeed kick hit the bug, a destructive shockwave erupted. Half of its head was incinerated, and dark red blood flowed out from it. Ayo! The huge bug seemed to be truly enraged. It opened its mouth full of fangs and roared at Dustless. Furthermore, a column of something similar to blood spurted out from its throat. The power of an ant. Seeing this, Dustless only laughed in disdain, and the corners of his dry mouth slightly opened. Binding Tao 81, sky shattering. A transparent barrier as thin as a cicada's wing suddenly appeared in front of Dustless. Bang! Without a doubt, the thick beam of light hit the barrier. This barrier that seemed like it could be broken with a single stab was unexpectedly sturdy. It was still standing even after taking a blow from the terminating seraph. This guy actually fought against the seraph of termination. Is this something humans can do? In the distance, Ike saw Katani, who had fled far away, had a look of uncertainty on her face. The seraph of Terminus could easily destroy the world. Chapter 24-23. Am I dreaming? That guy named Dustless is too powerful. He actually beat that monster until it bowed its head and admitted its mistake. Is this really reality? It feels like a hallucination. The state of the seraph of termination attracted the attention of many people. Everyone looked at the giant insect bowing its head and admitting its mistake, shaking its head and bending its legs slightly. Everyone felt that it was unbelievable. They couldn't even deal with the cocoon from this monster's body, but Dustless actually beat it until it bowed its head and admitted its mistake. The gap between people was too big. For a moment, all the vampires and humans were full of admiration for Dustless. Fortunately, I joined Dustless instead of challenging Dustless like that idiot Freed Bartlett. Otherwise, I would have died without a burial place. Oh whoa! The giant insect continued to wail, his hoarse voice begging for mercy, and his miserable appearance made people want to sympathize with him. But Dustless's heart was like a stone, extremely cold-blooded, and his calm eyes had no color fluctuations. Let alone letting him go, he didn't even have the basic sympathy. You only know fear when I take out my Tensigen. You want me to let you go? Now, it's too late, go repent in the hell. Dustless raised his right hand, and a fierce repulsive wave erupted from his palm. Bang! The powerful repulsive force directly hit the seraph of termination's body. The shell all over his body seemed to be made of plastic. It suddenly collapsed, and countless cracks appeared. Who allowed you to stand in the sky? Get down from here. The chakra in Dustless's body increased again, and a ripple of energy visible to the naked eye came out of his hand and rushed straight to the seraph of termination. Bang bang bang. After being hit by the repulsive force a few times, the hateful fat insect finally couldn't resist anymore, and was blasted from the sky to the ground by Dustless, smashing a deep pit. Tisk, tsk. This is too weak. I only got a little serious and it's already gone. Seeing the end of the battle, the blazing angel wailed on the ground. He tried to stand up a few times, but fell to the ground instead. Dustless also lost interest. His mind waning, he descended from the sky and appeared beside Krolu. Lord Dustless, when he saw Dustless, Kalula hurriedly lowered his head and used honorifics. Why didn't I see you being so obedient before? Dustless rolled his eyes and said indifferently, Soon, I will leave this world. What's your choice? Leave. Krolu's heart trembled. She had long heard that Dustless would disappear, but she didn't know where he went. You can follow me, or you can refuse. Seeing the girl's hesitation, Dustless said, I won't force you. After all, you have your own life. After we leave, we will never return to this world. It can be said to be an eternal farewell. Just me and Lord Dustless. Krolu asked with some apprehension. Originally, there was also the 3 palaces, 3 leaves, and Chuxiaoya, but I don't know where those 2 girls went. Dustless sighed faintly and said, I hope they will appear when I leave. Oh whoa! A furious roar filled with endless hatred shook the heavens. A visible ripple swept across the sky like a shockwave, spreading into the distance. Yo! Dustless grinned and looked at the dying big insect. He laughed and said, We have underestimated this thing. This beast's fatality is very strong. Beast? Hearing this, Krolu was also speechless. The seraph of termination was a worm in Dustless's mouth. Even if it looked like a worm, it was still a godlike existence. Now, Dustless actually called someone else a beast. Could he not be so arrogant? Boom boom boom. The huge bug flapped its wings and soared high again. Violent wind and waves rushed out from its 2 wings. Its ugly eyes were scarlet, as if they were burning with raging flames. It looked down at Dustless from the sky. Still holding a grudge. Just now, Dustless beat this thing up, so it probably hated him in its heart. Don't worry, you don't have to look at me so fiercely. You will also die, and die without a burial place. Not even the remains of your corpse will be left. Dustless blinked his eyes, and the scarlet eternal kaleidoscope was exposed to the air. Those mysterious eyes were like black holes, and looking at them would cause one to sink into them. Oh whoa! The huge insect opened its mouth again, and a thick black pillar came out, directly smashing towards Dustless. Amaterasu! Dustless coldly snorted, and the power of his eyes was twisted to the extreme. Oh whoa! Oh whoa! Oh whoa! The giant bug screamed again. He raised his head and looked. In the blink of an eye, his body was burning with black flames. The evil fire quickly dismembered his skin, followed by his flesh and blood, and then his internal organs. There was no exception. Even the black liquid that was about to hit Dustless was burned without a trace. Under Amaterasu, everything will be turned into ashes. From the beginning to the end, in just a few seconds, the seraph of termination, that is, the big flying insect, was burned to ashes, and even the bones were swept away by Amaterasu. It died just like that. The seraph of termination was easily destroyed in a snap of a finger. The shocked Krolu couldn't even speak, and looked at Dustless with eyes full of questions. That's probably it, killing that insect and leaving its corpse. Amaterasu is not such a gentle ninjutsu, that guy has already disappeared without a trace. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24-24. After Dustless finished off the seraph, Boa Hancock's battle also came to an end. Bang! Hancock stepped on Ike's Hanran's chest, her eyes as cold as ice, and declared domineeringly, "Children's fight, how long are you going to continue? Show me your full strength." Hearing this, a helpless smile appeared on Ike's Honglotus's face. "How disappointing. That was my full strength. Even my ghost was beaten away by you." Just now, Kaijin Hiru was controlling Ike's Hanran, but he was beaten away by Hancock, and Ike's Hanran's consciousness was restored. There was a sense of helplessness in Ikane's Red Lotus words. She could not help but look up at the heavens and ask absent-mindedly, "Is the gap between me and Dustless that big? What did that guy do to deserve it? Why?" Bang! Who would have thought that before Ike's Hanran could finish her nonsense, Hancock's foot swept over. The heel of her high heels directly blocked Ike's Hanran's throat. "Don't get carried away. You want to be on equal footing with Lord Dustless. Do you know? You don't even have the qualifications to carry his shoes." Hancock smiled disdainfully and said sarcastically, "1,000 years ago, Dustless Sama was at the top of a planet. Now he is willing to put down his status and play with you ants. You should feel honored." Hancock sneered, her beautiful and enchanting cheeks were full of ridicule. "You're about to die, yet you still dare to speak such arrogant words. From the beginning to the end, you've chosen the wrong opponent." Hancock said coldly, "As Dustless Sama once said, the biggest mistake of humans is not being weak, but being distracted. He didn't figure out who he should offend and who he shouldn't. All in all, I only have one conclusion for your short life: you are blind." Hancock was disdainful. Dustless was a god in her heart. Ikane's Honglotus was overestimating herself if she thought she could defeat him. "My blazing angel of termination will definitely destroy that fellow." Ikane's Red Lotus shouted furiously. "That is the incarnation of God. It can destroy the world." "Really?" Hancock pursed her lips into a smile, and the seductive charm that flowed out of her was captivating. "I forgot to tell you. During the 1,000 years that I've followed Lord Wu Qin, countless gods and planets have been destroyed by him. I can count them with 2 hands. Crack. As soon as she finished speaking, Hancock stepped on Ike's Hanran's throat and broke it. This kind of ant was not qualified to talk about Dustless. A little mouse actually wanted to fight with the person who destroyed a planet and even wanted to defeat him. Wasn't that too ridiculous? Hancock was done, and so was his death. "What? I thought Dustless had found a good toy for me, but it turns out that it's just a one-time thing. To think that I thought I could torture him forever. TSK, how disappointing." Chapter 24-25. By the way, her star-like bright eyes blinked slightly. Esteth held her chin with her hand and said, "I forgot to tell you. I just found 2 little girls. They said they knew you. They seem to be called Sangong San and Ran Xiaoya. That's good." Hearing that, Wu Chen finally let out a sigh of relief. His heart had always been concerned about the 2 girls. "Sir Dustless, are you done with the trivial matters?" Hancock, who was standing on the side, asked abruptly. Her eyes were filled with a lovely smile, and her cheeks were puffed up. The faint feeling of seduction was very appetizing. "Of course," Esteth nodded immediately and looked at Dustless. Ahem, noticing the changes in the expressions of the 2 women, Dustless coughed awkwardly and suddenly understood the thoughts of the 2. He waved to Krolu and said, "I have something to say to the 2 of them. You can leave here for a while." Krolu looked at Dustless with surprise, and immediately glanced at Esteth and Hancock from the corner of her eyes. Finally, she nodded slightly and left. Hoo-hoo-hoo, on the deserted roof, the cold wind whistled. Krolu's coat was blown high, and her snow-white legs were exposed. Krolu's eyes looked at the distant sky in a daze. Those two women. Where did they come from? They seem to be very familiar with Sir Dushless. Their relationship must not be ordinary. And they are so beautiful. Crowla's mind was full of Hancock and his death. At this moment, Her Majesty Queen was in a daze with an inexplicable melancholy. After all, she had lived for thousands of years. Crowla's experience was beyond doubt. Although her strength was not as good as Hancock and his death, her experience was much more than the two women. What Dustless said just now, Crowla naturally understood what it meant. Don't hide, come out. After being silent for a short while, Crowla suddenly opened his dry mouth. You want to know who the two women are, right? Actually, I don't know either. It's fine that she's so beautiful, but she's so strong that she's unreliable. Damn God, sometimes it's really unfair. After Kolulu said this, two figures walked up the stairs to the roof. The two women looked at each other. It was San Gong, San Yi, and San Xiaoya. The two girls were humans, while Kolulu was a vampire. If it was in the past, it would have been a bloody battle. However, in this world, both humans and vampires had been destroyed one after another. The hatred between the two races had also disappeared. That makes sense. The three palaces, three leaves, and Swan Xiaoya nodded in agreement. Jealousy is useless. Those two women are different. Apart from being beautiful, they are also very strong. As you can see, Lord Dustless trusts them very much. Kolulu's beautiful eyes couldn't help but dim. In terms of beauty, she thought that she was not inferior to Hancock and his death, but the key was that she lost in strength. When the gap in strength was big, there was a gap in temperament in all aspects. In front of Hancock and his death, Kolulu always felt a little ashamed. Of course, this was only in terms of strength. On the other side, Dustless also opened his eyes from a drunken stupor. This is really a bad habit. After a long time, you can annihilate yourself, forget your dreams, and easily make mistakes. Femme fatale is not wrong at all. In the warm cup, Dustless looked up at the ceiling and muttered to himself. At this moment, he enjoyed the blessing of having two women. Hancock and his death were nestled on his left and right sides, and their heads were on Dustless's shoulders. The three of them were naked, and their clothes didn't cover their bodies. Hancock and his death's delicate and pretty faces were still blushing as if they were drunk. People with sharp eyes could also catch the satisfaction in the eyes of the two women. It was self-evident what they had just experienced. You are really a playboy. You have a group of beautiful wives at home, and you are still fooling around outside. Esteth stared at Dustless with dissatisfaction, and at the same time, pinched his waist. Although Hancock didn't act like Esteth, she also snorted. You can't say that. Dustless was indifferent and explained faintly, first of all, they are still virgins. I didn't do anything out of the ordinary. They are willing to follow me. Isn't it because of your flowery words that deceived our sisters? Hancock rolled her eyes. She had a deep understanding of Dustless's despicable, shameless, and insidious nature. This time, it's not my fault. Instead, it's your appearance that stimulated their competitiveness. Dustless's eyes flashed with a wisp of wisdom, and he calmly explained, women are very complicated creatures. When they see beautiful things, they want to compete. For example, the appearance of you two, your perfection made them see their flaws, so it also stimulated their competitiveness. Originally, they didn't want to go with me. As a result, when they saw the strength of you two, they also had the desire to become stronger, so they chose to follow me. After all, it's all your fault. I didn't want to attract women, but the appearance of you two caused me to fall into the fire pit. Dustless, your shamelessness has refreshed my understanding. That kind of cute little girl is around you. Is it also called falling into the fire pit? Esteth was speechless on Dustless's chest. This guy is really getting more and more shameless. Of course, after all, I am a person who is loyal to marriage. Dustless said calmly without blushing. The two women couldn't wait to beat this guy. You have a group of wives and concubines, how dare you say that you are loyal to marriage? Chapter 24-26. Forget it, you are used to being free. We can't stop you. But Dustless, you have to remember one thing, don't do anything wrong to others. I can see that the three girls care about you very much and treat you as a support. Esteth looked at Dustless seriously with a little warning. They are all very cute. Boa Hancock also nodded and agreed. Do you two know how to talk? Am I that kind of ruthless person? Dustless's face was extremely strange, especially when Esteth just said that he was a ruthless scum. Let's change the topic. Since the things that should be solved have been solved, then let's leave. After putting on his pajamas, Dustless went to the window and looked at the world full of ruins. After a while, he shook his head and said, "It's too boring." In the next day, Dustless gave a lot of time to Mia, Sanya, Clolu, and Yu Xiaoya. They still had some trivial things to deal with, especially Yu Xiaoya. Although the Yu family was destroyed, there were still some people who escaped the attack of IK's Hanren, but Yu Xiaoya didn't have a good impression of them. After that, she went to burn a few incense sticks for Yu Tianli, and then left with Dustless. After that, Dustless and the rest vanished from this world without a trace. Under the blue sky, the pedestrians on the road hurried away. Everyone's expression was busy. People's long life was like this. After getting married and having children, they had to think about the future, and their career was getting busier and busier. However, there were exceptions. On a bench in a park, a young man was sitting with a tangled face. He looked very lazy and had no fighting spirit. It's really a bad year. How can I travel to such a strange world? There is no market for men. It's just a group of women fighting with Nova. Are you kidding me? Dustless looked up at the sky, his expression was a little bitter. After experiencing so many worlds, it was the first time that he traveled to such a special planet. It seems to be called the world of 0-degree warrior. Dustless muttered to himself. Just as he was pondering, a golden-haired little brat suddenly walked over and berated, "Hey, you're my servant from now on." This kid had a cute appearance. He was not old, estimated to be at most 5 or 6 years old. He was dressed well. At first glance, he was the young master of a big family. At this moment, the child looked at Dustless with an arrogant and proud face. Wu Chen didn't say anything and just looked at him quietly. He was just a child. There was no need to argue with him. The reason why this child wanted Wu Chen to be his servant was that he had just beaten up a few hooligans who were looking for trouble. This kid happened to see it, so he followed him all the way. Let's go and eat something. Disinclined to talk nonsense, Wu Chen left directly. Stop right there. Do you know who I am? The golden-haired child saw that he was being ignored and immediately said angrily, "I'm the eldest son of Bridget's family. Watch your attitude. If you don't obey me, I can break your legs at any time." Dustless family. After hearing this family, Dustless suddenly stopped in his tracks. A terrifying murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He stared at the kid carefully and asked indifferently, "Then I will go with you. Bring me to your family now." The reason why he agreed to go to this kid's family was naturally to get rid of this disgusting family. Dustless didn't have a good impression of them at all. I thought you had a lot of integrity. It turns out that you're just a money-grubbing trash. Ha 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 ha. Sure enough, money is the best medicine for everything. The golden-haired brat curled his lips and sneered. He didn't notice Wu Chen's coldness. Bumping into me only means that your family has reached a certain level. Dustless sneered in his heart. He looked at the kid and asked, "Are you called Louis L. Dustless?" "Ha ha ha, you know me." The kid was stunned. Then, he laughed proudly and said, "I didn't expect to be so famous at such a young age." "Ha ha ha, what AF asterisk king retard." Dustless lowered his head and looked at the kid. He wanted to kill him more and more. The world was so big, but they had to meet in such a small place. All this showed that this kid deserved to die. "My name is Dustless. Bring me to your family quickly." Dustless urged impatiently. "Let me, a country bumpkin who has never seen the world, see a little of what a rich family is like." Okay. Then I will open your eyes. You country bumpkin, don't be scared." Louis nodded lightly. Soon, a group of men in black ran over and surrounded him. They were probably Louis's bodyguards. Then, a few black luxury cars drove over. Dustless and Louis sat in the same car. Hey. Can you teach me the move you used just now? How much is it? Name a price. I may be young, but my father is very rich. He can buy the whole world. Louis introduced arrogantly. I will teach you when we get to your house. Dustless replied casually. He kept looking at the scenery outside the window. He would destroy this family later as a punishment for evil and a reward for good. Ha ha ha. With your skills, that stupid sister of mine will definitely obey. If she dares to disobey me, I will make her and her mother my slaves. Louis laughed crazily. His eyes were full of lust. However, it was his casual words that attracted Dustless's attention. Tell me about your sister. Dustless asked in boredom. I can teach you a very powerful move. You can fight 100 people at once. Really? Louis L. Dustless said happily. Okay. My sister just came yesterday. She seems to be my father's affair partner. Her name is Chateliza L. Dustless. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.